As a young child, Martin Luther King Jr. lived in this house with my parents and I. And I was so very, very young. But one thing that I remember about the Uncle Martin that I knew is that one day he stopped me and I thought we were going to just play, but I can hear his voice and he said, "Jawana, touch others so that you will be touched." And I think that bit of advice rings so true then. 50 years later, it rings true today. This home has been in my family since it was built in 1912. It was built by my great-great-uncle, Dr. Richard Byron Hudson, as a wedding present for his daughter, Leola Hudson. The last couple to live in this house were my parents, Dr. and Mrs. Sullivan Jackson, who lived in this home from 1958 until their deaths. They knew of the history in this house, that 50 years before Martin Luther King Jr. ever set foot in this home, that this is the place where W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington held fireside chats. Growing up in this house, I wish I had been a little older to understand the people that were coming into this house, the world leaders, the national leaders, the local people. Everything that was going on in this house was being done to benefit me and other children in this country and around the world, to ensure that they would have a better place in which to live and to grow and to function. This house tells multiple stories. This is the room in which Dr. King was sitting the night that President Johnson delivered the "We Shall Overcome" speech. He was sitting in this chair watching that television as he announced to the nation that he was going to sign the Voting Rights Act. This chair is dedicated to Rabbi Abraham Heschel. Rabbi Heschel traveled to Selma to have meetings with Dr. King as they planned the Selma to Montgomery March. This room is significant because this is, of all of the 3 bedrooms in this house that Dr. King slept in, a photographer from Jet magazine was able to capture him in these pajamas having a meeting one night with his brother, Reverend A.D. King, and several of his lieutenants. This is the room where Dr. King would receive telephone calls. President Johnson would call into my parents' home on that phone, and they would have marathon conversations about the civil rights movement and the planned march from Selma to Montgomery. If I had to think about a room that has remained a constant for me, it probably would be the kitchen. The famous people that have been in this house have always congregated to the kitchen for good times, for food, for nourishment. It's always been my hope that the many, many stories that are here in the Jackson Museum can continue to be told so that it will inspire. And there are some principles that will never get old, and that's what this house represents.